How to spot your blind spots. Have you ever felt blindsided by an event? As in, you didn't even see it coming, and it felt so huge and so discombobulating to be hit with something that you didn't even see coming. I think of when we talk about blind spots, I always think about driving in a car, and if you're not aware of your blind spots, oh, this is why I love these modern cars that will give you like little warnings and beep, like, hey, listen, something's coming up on the side of you. All right. So I can think of two times recently in history that were huge blind spots where almost the whole world felt sideswiped, blindsided. I'm going to share those. And then I'm going to share with you the three qualities that you can focus on so that you can eliminate blind spots in your life. And then I'm going to share with you at the very end 4 very specific questions that'll help you. All right. So, are you ready? How to spot your blind spots. So, number 1, we all have them. I remember, but let me tell you about the most recent time in history. Okay. Two most recent times in history. Number 1, the 2016 election. Everybody, and by everybody, I mean everybody, was convinced that Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president. It was a given. She had the experience. She had the name recognition. All the signs pointed to it. Even the polls pointed to it. Everybody was convinced. The media especially was convinced. And when the media is convinced of something, we all become convinced because that's all we hear. That's all that's being talked about. And it was so discombobulating to the world to find out. I think this is my personal opinion. I don't think that it was that Trump won nearly as much as they were so wrong about who they thought was going to win. But they just thought that there's no way in the world that this businessman who doesn't even seem to be taking it seriously can win against this seasoned politician who has been the president's wife. She's been a senator. She has been in politics all of her life. And because we were so convinced, then it felt like we were blindsided. Whoever you voted for, it was like, whoa, did that just happen? Okay. Secondly, COVID. Did anybody have the idea that they were literally going to shut down the world, shut down the country for so long? I remember I didn't. I'm like, that's crazy. You can't shut down the whole world. What are you talking about? People aren't going to agree to this. I wouldn't agree to this. I didn't agree to this. In fact, I won't agree to this. In fact, all the way through COVID, all the way through that time, we kept inviting people to our home. We kept going to the grocery store. We kept going out into public. I kept on living my life as normal as possible because I didn't believe with a basic premise that we would be healthier and better off if we shut down the world. Still don't believe it. Still think that I was on the right side of that. By the way, this is not a political debate. This is not a debate about policy. What I'm saying is we are all prone to blind spots. So we all have them. And that is actually the first key to spotting: awareness. Step number 1 to spotting a blind spot is awareness. The reason I'm doing this podcast is because recently I was coaching a client and she was about to spend a couple of $1,000s on something that she really didn't even want, but in her mind, this was the only option to get the result that she wanted. And the way that she said it, I was like, ooh, I think there's a blind spot here. And so I just asked a question, like, what other options are there? And she couldn't see them. And I could see them. And they seemed like obvious options to me, but she couldn't And as we broke it down, we realized the reason she couldn't see the same options that I could see was because she had a limiting belief. And at the end of it, she said something that prompted the inspiration for this video. She said, I am generally a positive person. She goes, I work hard to keep negativity out of my life. I work hard to only allow positive things in my life. I work hard to focus on possibility. She said, but I didn't even see this. And I went on to reassure her, this is common to us all. This happens to all of us. This is why it's so beneficial to do whatever it takes to develop awareness. So there's 3 things that we need to be aware of. We need to have self-awareness. Now, I personally teach my clients how to have self-awareness by teaching them self-coaching skills. But even then, and even though I've been using these self-coaching skills forever, I still have a coach that helps me spot my blind spots. More awareness. So, awareness. What do we need to be aware of? Well, we need self-awareness. We need self-awareness of our own patterns of thinking, of the things when we are eliminating options that somebody else might not be eliminating. I think I talked about this before, but one of the things that I love to do is look for people who have things that I desire and spend more time with them, because I want to hear not how they got there, but how they thought about it, so that I can borrow their beliefs, so that I can then learn how to do the things that they did to get there. A lot of times we're trying to copy somebody else's actions when we should really be copying somebody else's beliefs. Way more powerful. So, self-awareness. Also, awareness of human nature in general. We tend to understand our own nature a little bit and then assume that other people's nature is like us. So it really was beneficial for me to spend a lot of time studying human nature, studying different personality types, and there's different categorizations of it. There's like the Myers-Briggs, there's the Enneagram, there's DISC, even things like the love language. There are different ways that break down patterns of human behavior, psychology, that help us understand human nature in general. And then another thing that helps us with awareness is just awareness of how the world works. I remember when I started doing a deep dive into specific topics because I just wanted to know, how does the world work? How does nature work? How do economics work? Macroeconomics, microeconomics. How does health and disease work? Understanding topics in a broad way like that, well, it was literally the reason why I took the stance that I took during the lockdowns during COVID, because I had already previously studied how does health and disease work. And so because I had that knowledge, I was able to make decisions for myself and to make them confidently in a way that instead of relying upon the general consensus, which felt like it was changing. I want to make that clear. One of the reasons why I was comfortable making my own judgment calls was because the general consensus changed. And when it changed a couple times really quickly, I was like, there's something else going on here that's not just about health. There's other factors that they're taking into consideration. So, awareness. That's step number 1 to how to spot your blind spot. Become a person that is always looking to increase your own awareness of how you work, of how the world works, of how other people work. It's going to help you so much. Okay, number 2, perspective. The ability to see things from multiple directions. At the very least, develop the ability to see everything from 2 perspectives. Now, there's more nuances, for sure. But we generally, because of the way that we've been raised to believe, or we generally look at a set of facts from either like a positive perspective or a negative perspective, a hopeful perspective, a cynical perspective. This will work. This won't work. These are all the reasons why. Whichever way that you tend towards, practice believing the opposite. Like, what if I am completely wrong about this? What if it's the exact opposite? If somebody tells you a rumor about somebody, before you believe it, say, what if the exact opposite is true? What if it is not this? What if it is the exact opposite of this? That'll slow down our judgment. That gives us perspective. Perspective, I think, is the opposite of hasty judgments, or at least it'll help us prevent hasty judgments, erroneous judgments. Perspective creates balance. It broadens our viewpoint. I remember learning that, like scientists divide animals into like prey animals and animals of prey, like animals that prey upon other animals and then animals that are victim to, and they said you can tell because the ones that are seeking to eat other animals basically have eyes in the front of their head to focus on their prey. Predators, thank you. Predatory animals. They have eyes in front of their head to focus on the prey. But animals of prey, the prey animals that get, the predators are seeking, they have eyes on the sides of their head to be able to have a wider range of vision. To be able to watch out for that. I always thought that was such an interesting fact. So, develop your perspective. Be able to see more than what you are naturally inclined to see in the first instance, okay? So hit pause on that. And then 3, how to spot blind spots. Develop wisdom. Now, we kind of think that wisdom is something that we just have or we don't have based upon our age and our experience. But have you ever noticed that people that can go through the exact same experience and one person can learn from it and one person doesn't even pick up that there was a pattern or that there was something else that they could have done and they keep on repeating the same experience, having the same experience over and over and over again? Yeah, they're not developing wisdom. They're not even using their experiences to develop wisdom. But we don't have to wait for our experience to develop wisdom. We can gain wisdom from other people's experience. Or my favorite way to gain wisdom is, well, besides borrowing it from the Bible, which is where this whole pattern is going to come from, is to ask questions. So here are the questions that I have developed and that I ask to help me go from the starting place of not having wisdom, which I would say is being in ignorance, to going to the stages of wisdom. So there are 4 stages, okay? There's ignorance, and then there's knowledge, and then there's understanding, and then there's wisdom. So we all start at ignorance at some point on every single topic. Don't know anything about anything. And then we start to learn some things about some things, okay? So ignorance has us, when we're in ignorance, we really think, well, there's just no way. I don't know. There's no way. And what is a question that I ask to step from ignorance into knowledge? Kind of like the perspective. What if there is a way? So what if there is a way? When I ask the question, what if there is a way, and I'm just not seeing it, then I start looking for it. I start researching it. I'm looking for what I was blind to. I am assuming that I have a blind spot. See, in ignorance, we're not even aware of our blind spot. But in this, we're aware and we're looking for knowledge. All right, so we start researching and then we gain knowledge. And then we ask the next question. What is a way? Not the way. What is a way? And that leads us to gain understanding. Why does it help us gain understanding? Well, often when we say, what is a way, we're looking outside of our known, and sometimes we're looking to maybe a related field, or maybe we're looking to a person who's done something similar. We're not looking for an exact plan. We're looking for a broader than knowledge. That's what understanding is. Oh, and the more, see, knowledge is pretty much like a collection of facts and experiences, but understanding is an understanding. I'm having a hard time defining understanding without using the word understanding. Understanding is an assimilation of how things work. And once we see the pattern of how things may work over here, then we understand that they work over here too, because principles translate across fields. Here's an example. This is true in parenting and training employees. Oftentimes, when my husband and I are working with entrepreneurs and they're getting to the stage where they need to grow a team and they need to start hiring their employees, they have the mistaken notion that you train once and then everybody remembers everything. And, or they have the idea that you can just hire the entire job out and then somebody else will take responsibility for it. But because we are parents, we understand that's not how human nature works. We all forget things. We all drop things. We all need to be reminded of things. And so, as an employer, as a leader, as a parent, it is our job to teach and reteach and train and retrain until what, first started out as a practice, then becomes a habit, then becomes so ingrained that it's just the default action. But that right there, that whole little synopsis that I created right there, I'm trying to explain how knowledge becomes understanding, okay? We see patterns between different fields. And then, here's my favorite part. The difference between understanding and wisdom, I think, boils down to just keep on asking this question over and over again. What is the better way? What if there's a better way? A better way. To me, wisdom boils down to a better way. There's several ways to skin a cat, but there's one way that's better than most. And there may be one way that's best than all. And maybe we don't want to skin the cat. But wisdom is the better way. And there can be multiple better ways, and this is why so many times when we come to the Bible with a black and white perspective of right and wrong rules and, tell me what to do and what not to do, we're missing the depth that the Bible is trying to show us. We're missing the point that the Bible, one of the reasons the Bible was written was to help us develop wisdom. And wisdom is not knowing all the rules and all the thou shalt and thou shalt nots. Wisdom is having the ability to think through, to go from ignorance to knowledge, to understanding, to wisdom. Ignorance, knowledge, understanding, all the way up to wisdom. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that, so we get to wisdom and we feel like we've solved our blind spot. Well, ironically, there's a point at wisdom when we can go back into our blind spot in a way that's even deeper than before, as in we can increase our blind spot. We can make our blind spot blinder if that's a thing. And that's if at that point we say, well, that won't work for me. Well, I can't do that. Well, that's not relevant here. Well, that won't work. Do you see how we started to open up our understanding and then we slammed the door shut? That is the difference between the simple person, the wise person, and the foolish person. See, the simple person, that's where we're all starting out. We lack understanding. We lack wisdom. So then we go through the stages from ignorance to knowledge to understanding to wisdom. And when we get to wisdom, we have an opportunity to become wise or to slam the door on that knowledge because it is conflicting with a limited belief system that we have or some other thing that we think we know, and we reject what we just started to learn. And that's when we step into the shoes of the foolish person. It is very hard to, I'll be honest, it is super hard to break a pattern after you slam a door on it. It's very hard to change somebody's mind once they're convinced that they don't want it changed. This is why some people don't want to grow. Some people don't want to be mentored. Some people are not really looking for answers. And I'm saying that to you, not as me, a coach, telling you, like talking about you, but I'm saying that to you as if you are a person that is trying to help other people, I want to warn you, don't waste all of your time and energy trying to convince a person who has closed the door to understanding to reopen it, when there are so many people that are waiting for you to help them, and they're eager and hungry and desirous of pursuing the path from ignorance to wisdom. Focus on those people. Don't focus on the people who are not open to it. So I just say that because a lot of times I think we believe it's our job to convince everybody of the truth. But we shall know the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. It is not your job to convince people of the truth. It is your job to share the truth. If they receive the truth will make them free. But if they close the door on the truth, that's their decision. And we should respect that. And we should not spend all of our time, all of our energy, all of our focus trying to convince people who have closed the door when there are so many people who are looking. That's just the hard way. Why would we do that? All right, so how to spot a blind spot. Number one, be aware. We've all got them. One of the reasons why I am so able to spot my blind spots is because I go searching for them without judgment. I don't think that we should be judging ourselves harshly just because we have a blind spot. I actively go looking for them because I just want to grow as much as possible. And two, when I'm sensing that one's there, and this is a feeling. In fact, it's hard to express it in words. Let me try. But it's like feeling like there's a little bit of resistance or a thought of maybe I'm making this a little bit harder than it needs to be. Or when I'm listening to a client, I can hear in their voice that they're not excited about the option that they see. They're kind of dreading it. And I always think, I wonder if there's a blind spot there that we can open up a little bit. So I just trust that I have plenty of blind spots. I'm aware of them. It keeps me humble. And I also look for, hey, I feel like I'm a little bit stuck here. And I take that to my coach if I can't move it on my own. So be aware. Grow your awareness of yourself, of others, human nature, of the world. Expand your perspective, like literally force yourself to look for the opposite of what you expect to see. And then thirdly, increase your wisdom. Ask these questions. All right. So I hope this has helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And if you feel like a blind spot is holding you back, I invite you to go to aprilbragg.com and book a clarity call. And we'll just get to it quickly. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.